Welcome everyone, this is Liz and this is my new series, We Were the Watts. This first episode is entitled A Tale of Two Chris's. Spoiler, both Chris's are morons. Let's begin, shall we?
So can we talk about A Tale of Two Chris's? Okay.
That's what's in my head, like, if they're safe right now, they're gonna come back. But if they're not safe right now...
Started wondering what it might be. He didn't have a wife to take care of and a girl to take care of. Spent some time alone. Liked that time alone. Came home. May or may not have had a conversation about how to get out of this marriage. Or how to fix it, but probably how to get out of it. And did something terrible.
Chris Watts, W-A-T-T-S.
Wow. What's going on right now around your house?
Right now it's got K9 units, the sheriff's department. Everybody's like they're doing their best right now to figure out like if they can get a scent.
On August 13th, 2018, in Frederick, Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts murdered his pregnant wife Shan'ann by strangulation, along with his two children, Bella and Celeste, by smothering each of them. Chris claims they have gone missing and gives a media interview on his front porch the very next day.
See where they went. If they went on foot, they went in a car, or they went somewhere. And right now it's just like they've been on point. They're going through the house trying to get a scent, and hopefully they can pick something up to where it's going to lead to something.
This interview was the first many of us heard of this case. Was this a genuine plea for the safe return of his family? Or was this just another case of someone doing something unbelievably heinous and then being brazen enough to conduct an interview like this one? Of course, we now know what happened, but did Chris give us any clues of his guilt? We can look at his facial expressions, his body language, and his word choices that definitely give us a frightening glimpse into the real Chris. This is the body cam footage of the officer and the canine dog handler making entry into the Watts home right before this interview begins. Knowing that the officers and dog are inside while giving this TV interview is our first glimpse into Chris Watts' personality. Chris has the confidence and composure to speak to reporters while police were conducting a search inside. One might argue that he is relatively composed because he thinks he has covered up anything that could possibly point towards his guilt.
Smells like cleaning, doesn't it?
The handler makes note here of that strong smell of cleaning products. Note that this is a carpeted room, so those were used elsewhere and are so strong it's hitting them at the front door. I'm including this part of the search where they reach the basement because many people, myself included, think that parts of the crime occurred in the basement. I've devoted an entire episode just to the body cam footage and these searches. Once he pled guilty, the investigation stopped, but there were so many unanswered questions, which some of this footage may answer.
What happened? Your wife came home and tell me what's...
She came home from the airport 2 a.m. and I left around 5:15. She was still here, and like about 12:10 in that afternoon, her friend Nicole showed up at the door. Like I had texted Shan'ann a few times that day, called her, say, but she never got back to me. But she wasn't getting back to any of her people as well, and that's what really concerned a lot of people. Is like if she's not getting back to her, like if she doesn't get back to me, that's fine. Like she gets busy during the day, but she didn't get back to her people, which was very concerning. And Nicole called me when she was at the door, and that's when I came home.
Only that's not when he came home. He only came home when the police who had arrived called him. His hand was forced, and for him to not come home would be immediately suspicious. Nicole Atkinson and her son were there a long time. They called Chris multiple times. Chris told them to leave. Chris told them nothing was wrong. Chris said, "Do not call the police. Get off of my property."
And then walked in the house and nothing was vanished. Nothing was here.
Nothing was here, as in no evidence of foul play. He corrects himself, though. He realizes that's not what you say. You say no one was here. The real Chris slipped out with that statement.
I mean, she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Nope, nobody was here.
What's your wife's name?
Shan'ann. Shan'ann.
What's your kids?
Bella and Celeste.
How do you spell Celeste?
Celeste.
How old are your daughters?
4. Bella's 4. Celeste is 3.
He doesn't seem to have a problem saying Shan'ann and spelling her name. However, he does a long blink when he speaks his 2 little girls' names, Bella and Celeste. It could be eye blocking. He could be remembering what he's done, and he's just trying to block it from himself. He's getting nervous here. He licks his lips. He's probably getting dry in the mouth as the questions ramp up, and he tries to swallow. You can see a big swallow, which is kind of indicative of nervousness.
4. Bella's 4. Celeste is 3.
And so, how many times did you try calling her?
I called her 3 times, texted her about 3 times just to say, what's going on? Like, because after I called her and texted her once, it's like maybe she was just busy. Like, she had just gotten back. Like everybody's probably calling her from her trip. She just got back from Arizona, and I figured she was just busy. But when her friend showed up, that's what it was like. It registered. Like, all right, this isn't right.
Of course, he was registering that something was going wrong with his plan, not that something was wrong with his family. He knew where they were. Whatever it was, his big plan that was rattling around in that peanut-shaped head of his, it was going wrong fast. His plan allowed for time to dispose of Shanann's purse, her phone, the kids' car seats perhaps, and maybe even had time to pawn that ring.
Do you think she just took off? Do you think?
I mean, right now I don't even want to just throw anything out there.
The criminal will tell us what they did with their choice of words. They can't really help it. They leak out a little bit of truth in their phrase. They can grab any phrase or word from their vocabulary, but what will often come out are the ones that are in the forefront, that often have to do with the thing that they're covering up. I don't want to throw anything out there, which is sadly ironic. We know now he had thrown out his family.
Right now, I don't even want to just throw anything out there.
I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. But I mean, could she just taken off? I don't know. But if somebody has her and they're not safe, I want them back now. That's what's in my head. If they're safe right now, they're gonna come back. But if they're not safe right now, that's the not knowing part.
As an aside, I have been interviewed for the news, and it can be nerve-wracking, and you can stutter and stumble. I do so in this video. However, he kind of makes a buffoon of himself by stating the obvious, that if his family is safe, then they're safe. If they're not, then they're not. The reason he's having difficulties here is because he can't access the correct emotions that he should be having, and then in turn can't articulate and express those emotions in a way that makes sense.
If they're not safe, last night I had every light in the house on. I was hoping that I would just ran over by the kids running in the door and just barrel rushing me, but it didn't happen. And it was just a traumatic night. trying to be here.
I absolutely believe him when he says he's traumatized and that he couldn't stay there, because we know he's a coward. He had just dispatched his family earlier that day with his bare hands. And just like a kid when it comes nighttime, and you try to keep all the lights on so you don't see anything you don't want to see, he had to get out of there. There was dead silence where there used to be laughter and conversation. And he couldn't sit there with himself and what he had done.
I'm going to ask some kind of tough questions. Your relationship with your kids?
Yeah, my kids are my life. I mean, those smiles light up my life. And there's like...
Thank you, Chris, for illustrating perfectly for us what a sociopath can look like and what they are capable of. Look at his face as he's telling you the smiles light up his life, knowing they will never smile again. He knows they're gone. He knows exactly where he's left them. And he doesn't hope to see them again. He hopes no one will discover them.
And there's like, I mean, last night, like during when they usually eat dinner, it was just like I missed them. Like, I mean, I missed telling them, hey, you got to eat that or you're not going to get your dessert, and just like you're not going to get your snack after. I missed that. Like,
Thank you for the birds I see. Thank you, God, for everything. Amen.
I miss them, cuddle up on their couches. They have like a Minnie Mouse couch and a Sophia couch that they cuddle up on and watch, bubble something. And it was just like,
He corrects himself mid-sentence from telling us the truth yet again. Only this time he actually realizes saying I was creeped out is not appropriate for the situation that he's in.
And for nobody to be here last night and to go into their rooms and know that I wasn't going to turn the rain machines on, and I know that I wasn't going to turn their monitor on, and know I wasn't going to kiss them to bed tonight. That's why last night was just horrible.
Sometimes when a sociopath or pathological liar is telling you something, they will give an abundance of really unnecessary details. It kind of bolsters what they're saying. It's filler. However, in this case, it serves two purposes. It bolsters what he's saying, but it also bolsters his facade as the good dad. He's detailing for you what he does every night for his girls. It's their nighttime routine. But do not let yourself get caught up in those details, that chaff, because he does tell you the truth again here. Even though that night they could have come home, they'd only been gone a partial day. He's telling you he couldn't stay because he knew he wasn't going to be able to put them to bed and say goodnight that night. Because of his sociopathy, he really can't access the vocabulary of a feelinged person. I think most will agree that if you were missing your wife and kids, that you wouldn't think about yourself. You wouldn't prioritize yourself and your emotions and your well-being by leaving. You would be concerned only with your family and what they were going through. And Chris saying, it's too hard for me to be here, and it's too traumatic, it's too traumatizing, with no mention of the trauma or the difficulty his family could be going through.
It was, that's why last night was just horrible. I couldn't do it. I want everybody to just come home. Like, wherever they're at, come home. That's what I want. So she's supposed to get home at like 11. She got home at like 1:48. She got in bed about 2.
This can be confirmed with the door cam footage of Shan'ann returning home. Nicole Atkinson is there in the background in her car, making sure she gets in the door safely. Ironically, she was not safe, and she had been feeling very sick the entire weekend and was worried. She had no doubt seen the charge for the lazy dog. That was far more than what Chris would have spent for just himself, and she may or may not have suspected. She may have been hoping against hope that he wasn't having an affair, but this would be a telltale sign of that, especially given that he was secretive about it.
Or did you guys get into an argument before she left?
It wasn't like an argument. We had an emotional conversation, but I'll leave it at that. But I just want them back.
I'd like you to look and weigh in on what many of us, including myself, believe to be wounds inflicted by Shan'ann and or the girls. I have increased the saturation and the contrast just to make the shapes more apparent. I did not alter in any way the shape of the wounds. I see some on his neck, possibly up near his ear, and by his beard. These would obviously indicate a struggle had occurred. Whether the police had noted these or not is not exactly important, as they already realized that something bad must have happened and that Shan'ann and the girls did not leave on their own. Chris, in fact, backed his truck into the garage, which he had never done before. Law enforcement would have already been looking for a motive, and often that motive is a mistress, and mistresses are to be found often at the husband's place of work. So it would be a misconception to say that the mistress came forward of her own volition. That is partially true. Their place of business would have been legally obligated to contact her and let her know that she was mentioned while the police were investigating, at which point she could choose to come forward on her own or wait and possibly take the chance of looking guilty in some way. They would have known, sadly, because of previous experience, that there are two sides to people sometimes. Not all sociopaths become murderers. I believe that they're capable of it. I think they have to come across something that they want more than their previous life, and or they have someone who emboldens them to do what they already were capable of or wanted to do in the first place. You know that people can suddenly do something horrific, but it's hard for us, especially when looking at this case, because we see the side of Chris in these videos that does seem very loving and caring and attentive to his wife and children. It actually seems like he goes above and beyond as a father. He does all of these things that maybe a lot of other dads aren't involved in. So we give them this extra credit, I suppose, because we see these videos and such. This is just his outward facade. He may not even actually realize that it is his facade. I don't really give him the credit of being very introspective at all. Chris was one day getting everything that he needed out of life. A beautiful wife, beautiful kids, a beautiful home, Everyone looked at him as a provider, a loving husband, and a loving father. And he got a lot from that. Until he didn't. And he wanted something else. And sociopaths do need immediate gratification. And unless you have been in contact with someone like this, I don't think you can fully understand that when a sociopath or a narcissist is done with whatever it is that you had to give them, they are done with you. They can turn whatever that was that they had for you, that maybe you previously thought was love, they can turn that off. But we know as healthy, well-adjusted human beings that love does not work that way. And you will never know, and again, I know this from personal experience, you will never know that the person that you have loved and trusted is a narcissist or a sociopath until the day that they do not get what they want. And the day that they no longer are getting what they want, you see the other side of them. Shan'ann provided for Chris the blueprint, the simple blueprint of what a good husband and father looks like. He just needed to follow along with that, and it was kind of like this recipe for his wonderful life. And he probably would, like he said, if he had never met his mistress, he may have never done anything like this. He would be out of jail. He would have celebrated the birth of his son. They would have still been a happy, loving family. That may or may not be true, but he still would have been the person capable of doing exactly what he did, which is annihilate his family.
Guess when you want to, it happens.
So for those who just can't get past that smiling, doting husband and father that we see in the videos, that just can't reconcile this good Chris with the Chris that would dispatch his entire family, lay his hands on them and then put their bodies in oil tanks and then go on live television to say that they are missing, to lie in an interrogation room for hours on end. For those people who can't see that that is the same person and that he must have been driven to do these things by Shan'ann or by his mistress, I would like to bring to the forefront two statements that he made after he was incarcerated that bring his sociopathy to the forefront. And I want you to consider these. The first is that he feels that God has a better plan for him than to sit in jail. Well, I believe that too. God did have a better plan for him. He had a better plan for Shan'ann and the two girls and baby Nico. But because we have free will, he decided that his plan was best.
And I just want to get out of here. I know that God has a plan for me, and to be in prison right now would not stay here. Because he brought me here for a reason. But he also wants me to do something on the outside. I know I just can't sit here and just wait. I know I just can't sit here and just wait.
The second thing that he says that shows he's a sociopath and without remorse is that he thinks he is being harshly judged and that he shouldn't be so harshly judged. After all, that was just one day of his life. Essentially what he's saying is this. He should be judged by all of the wonderful things and all of the years that he was a good person. Focus on that. Don't focus on this one day, this one little old day of his life. It just happens to be the day he killed his entire family. This is the most striking example of someone who is a sociopath and a malignant narcissist. This rings true to him. This logic makes sense to him because he's that self-centered and without remorse. This truly is a scary look inside his thought process, in that he's sitting there after the fact with plenty of time to think about what he's done, and his takeaway now is he's being unfairly judged by people for that one little old day of his life.
And Bella, Celeste.
Shan'ann, Bella, Celeste.
The exact moment that he speaks Bella and Celeste's names, he eye blocks. He does a long blink that's not present in the other parts of the interview.
If you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete with.
Ironically, in his final plea, when he says that he needs to see them again, ironically, he closes his eyes. For the longest period, he is either distracting himself or cannot face the lie he's telling or see the reaction of the person he is telling the lie to. Watch as he takes the mic off. You will see a slight but very obvious demeanor change. From caring and worried father and husband to a little touch smug. I think he thinks he's knocked this interview out of the park and that he's going to get away with this. And I don't doubt that he's gotten away with a lot of lies in his life just by having that facade of being a good person who's low-key and doesn't like confrontation and is willing to please. But beneath that is also someone who feels entitled to what they want. He was previously getting a lot of narcissistic supply and attention from being that good husband and dad. But he doesn't want that anymore. He has found something that he wants even more. And although he had choices, he decided that the best plan of action to save his integrity as the good husband and father would be just have them go missing. Then he doesn't look bad. Now, there were a few catalysts that spurred this on, and those will come in the following episodes. I've hardly scratched the surface, but I squeezed in everything I could possibly for this first episode. Like and subscribe, hit the bell button. I'm already working on the upcoming following episodes.
My daddy is a hero. He helps me grow up strong. He helped me not go too. He reads me books. He ties my shoes. If you're a hero, blue and blue, my daddy is love you. Oh.
So can we talk about Caleb too, Chris?